Question for you. Is the GameCube the greatest Nintendo console to never get into news? Possibly. And today, we're going to dive deep into what might be Nintendo's most underrated console and what I believe is an overlooked masterpiece. Crazy to say, but the GameCube released in 2001, over 20 years ago. The successor to the Nintendo 64, its development was a response to the evolving needs of more sophisticated gaming audience. The GameCube was designed with a focus on gaming exclusively, unlike the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. And that was one of the main features of the GameCube, was its use of mini DVD-based disc instead of full-size DVDs. This choice was partly for reducing manufacturing costs and, like typical Nintendo, to deter from piracy. One of the highlights for the GameCube was its controller, its standout ergonomic design, which is still celebrated for its comfort and effectiveness, and for me, is top 2 in controllers, right up there with the Xbox 360 controller. At launch, the console was met with cautious optimism. It boasted significant titles like Luigi's Mansion and Super Smash Bros. Melee, yet many questioned Nintendo's strategy. The market was shifting, and the lack of DVD playback and the smaller game library kind of gave consumers pause. Despite this innovative design and strong lineup of games, the GameCube really struggled in a market compared to its competitors. It sold approximately 22 million units worldwide, making it one of Nintendo's lower selling consoles. However, many of the titles developed for the GameCube, such as Super Smash Bros. Melee and The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, have left a lasting legacy and are still highly regarded in gaming circles today.
Nothing comes between a man and his game. Play from far away with Wavebird wireless controller, new for Nintendo GameCube.
People low-key forget that the GameCube had a wireless controller, the wireless Wavebird. Crazy to think about it, but back then, obviously, cordless controllers weren't as common. Though it never led in the console wars, the GameCube secured a victorious legacy of innovation and delight. For those who know, the GameCube isn't just any other console. For me, it was my childhood. A world where gaming came first and imagination really had no bounds.
I said with mustard. Make it 2.
You know what's funny is I actually remember when my aunt got me the GameCube for Christmas. I really wanted a DS, and I wanted a DS so I could play Pokemon. And I do remember quite being a little brat about it, not getting the DS so I can play Pokemon and getting a GameCube instead. But little did I know how much the GameCube was going to be a big part of my childhood. So I hope you enjoy as much as I did looking back at my past experiences with all the games on the GameCube as we look back at them for the next few moments. Packed with 4 controller ports, party games as a kid were really where the GameCube truly shined for me. I can literally picture in my head a photo of me, my cousins Ben and Josh at our grandparents' house playing on my GameCube. You can't forget about any of the Mario Party games, really. 4, 5, 6, or 7, they were all classics. And a lot of the mini games that are being re-released on the Switch game that just came out, the Mario Party, the Jamboree, a lot of those games were found from the GameCube for good reason. Those games really just hit different, the mini games I mean. And although I can't really distinct which Mario Party stands out the most to me, they all kind of blend together for me. But just all of them were good times, good games for sure. And honestly, all the Mario games on the GameCube were pretty much a hit. Mario Kart Double Dash, bro, come on. The Two Riders mechanic was pretty much iconic, allowing us to switch control between driving and using items, playing 2 players on the same team. It was just so much fun, and I loved all of the maps that were there. Speaking of Mario, Super Smash Bros. Melee. I touched on it earlier, but the fast-paced fighting game featuring Nintendo characters. Absolutely amazing, and although it was not the first in the series, this one really put the series on the map. At least I think it did. I remember playing the game with my cousins and realizing there were more characters to unlock. You know, you gotta remember it was the mid-2000s, man. Internet was a thing, but not like today, obviously. And as kids, we didn't have the money to buy the guidebooks that were at GameStop. So we spent hours trying to find them and unlock them. And one of the ones that really stood out to me the most was when we were finally able to unlock Mr. Game & Watch. Some other games that I really enjoyed playing with my cousins was actually Super Monkey Ball. Man, I know they remade this game on the Switch, but it just did not hit the same. Super Monkey Ball 2 was just so much fun. If you don't know what the game is you guide a monkey inside of a ball through obstacle-filled levels by tilting the environment with the control. It low-key took a lot of skill and precision as a kid, especially as a 7-8-year-old playing this game. But so many fun memories doing the levels and trying to get the fastest times on that. You know, sometimes I would have the opportunity to play with my older cousins, MJ, James, and Michael Robert. And I remember us spending a lot of time playing these kind of more PG-13 games, right? Timesplitters 2. I think this was my first ever first-person shooter experience. And if you never heard of Timesplitters, it's just a hilarious game, honestly. Known for its humorous take on historical as well as futuristic scenarios. It had a surprisingly crazy, diverse character roster. I remember really liking playing as the monkey. And it also had a lot of really fun multiplayer modes. Another shooter game I remember playing was Freedom Fighters, which was this kind of like squad-based shooter that was kind of base capturing as well, like capture the flag. But it had like a resistance movement theme, and I definitely something I'm thinking I want to long play on this channel down the road, just because I have so many fond memories of that game. Army Men Sarges of War was another shooter game that was just a fun game overall. It was a cool spin-off of the Army RTS game, which I really enjoyed as well. A lot of real-time strategy games low-key on the GameCube that I enjoyed, and the Army RTS was one of them. But Army Men Sarges of War really stood out to me. Being in a game setting where, you know, it's almost like when you were a kid, you know, you would always want to play with toy soldiers. I would bring them to the beach. It was just so cool to actually see that like lived out in a video game. Really awesome. Army Men Sarges War, as well as the Army RTS game. Now, when you think of movies turned to video games, not many great ones come to mind, but I don't know if it's just nostalgic speaking for me, but two legendary movie franchises that actually transferred over well, I think, into engaging cooperative multiplayer experiences was definitely had to be Lord of the Rings Return of the King, as well as Xmen Legends. Both of these were like these top-down level up RPG games, up to 4 players obviously, and I just remember really having so much fun playing these games, whether it was on Xmen Legends and you know, getting the characters, playing as Iceman. I loved Iceman on that game. I would love playing as him, as well as Wolverine, of course, come on. And on Lord of the Rings, Legolas, playing as him. And I just remember one level where it's like in a dungeon and there's ghosts around. Just a fun game. Fun games, fun memories I have playing with my older cousins on that. And speaking of I guess movie franchises to games, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Absolutely awesome. And I'm not really even into like flying games. You know, Top Gun is one of the games that I had on my GameCube as well that I never got too far in, but I remember playing. But man, the dogfights in the Star Wars universe were just so cool and really breathtaking at the time. Even as a kid, I remember thinking like, holy cow, look at all this snow, you know what I mean? And doing those levels and those missions, or being out in the galaxy. Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Great game. A sports game that I used to play all the time on the GameCube was actually WWE Day of Reckoning. I'm laughing because I'm remembering a moment when me and my cousin Ben got in trouble playing this game from his dad, because we were playing with the female characters, and you know, we're just being little goobers, 9-10 years old, just playing with the female characters, and doing like the Hell in a Cell match and all that fun stuff, right? So if I think about this WWE game though, I think it was like the first creative player kind of like story mode I remember ever playing as a kid. You know, like making my character look like he was from Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan, and then picking his special moves and then rising up the ranks in WWE. I do remember that a lot.
You know, seeing some pals.
All Rob does is fish and see his pals. I'm the one getting the job, tending the
Welcome to Animal Crossing.
Now, I'm sure there are plenty of other party games that I'm missing, and these are just the ones that really stood out to me. I'm really curious for you guys as well. What games am I missing that were party games that you loved playing when you were younger on the GameCube? So not only did the GameCube have a lot of fun party games, but they had a lot of games that I enjoyed playing by myself as well. Honestly, as I look at these types of games I play today, which is mostly tactical based strategies and RPG games, a lot of it I think has to do with the time I spent on this console. Because a lot of these games too, bro, they did not hold your hand. I'm talking about like Luigi's Mansion, did not hold my hand. You get to play a Mario game as a less cooler brother. I guess that's cool. But honestly, at the end of the day, this made Luigi one of my favorite Mario characters other than Baby Bowser. It had a haunted house setting that was really scary as a 7 or 8 year old, using a vacuum to capture ghosts in a puzzle oriented gameplay. It was a blast, even if it was just me mostly watching my cousin MJ play because I was too scared to play it myself. Speaking about Baby Bowser, I loved Super Mario Sunshine. Playing as Mario with the water pump called Flood, but cleaning up the pollution and collecting the shrines on Delfino Plaza was really awesome. The graphics were so vibrant. And I remember spending hours trying to do the levels without the flood, and how frustrated you would get, at least I would get, when I would do that because I was not good at it. And for the longest time, I had this like scratched up copy of the game. Like it would freeze up right when I would get to the Piranha boss. And so I realized like down the road, like maybe probably like 6-7 months down the road, that hey, I could just play a different level and get back to it, and it wouldn't be scratched up and freeze up on. But for the first 6 months, it felt like I had a trial version of the game, right? Speaking of trials, I really had this, I had this Billy Hatcher game that I'm pretty sure was a trial, because it would just not let me get past a certain point. I've never beat the game. I don't even think I ever actually bought the game. But Billy Hatcher was this like unique platformer centered around a rolling egg that grows in size, kind of like when you're pushing a snowball, I guess, down, right? And you can then use that egg to defeat enemies and to solve puzzles. And it was actually developed by the Sonic team, which, by the way, Sonic Adventures 2, absolutely iconic. I love the Chow world. I love those little mini games with the Chows. And I remember I would only want to complete missions on that game to unlock more animals to feed to my Chow. Like, that's how much I love that game. And I remember selling the game when I was younger, and then wanting to get the game again and buying all these Sonic games that I thought were that, but didn't realize it was this game, and having to save up months and months of money at the time as a kid to be able to get this actual game. To this day, I'm not really sure how I got my hands on this, but I had this Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition promotional disc. I don't even know if it's actually rare or not, but I thought it was cool because it's like collector's edition on there, right? And it had those 4 Zelda games, which none of them I never beat, if I'm being completely honest. I remember playing hours and hours trying to get the moon not to crash. And I still don't think I ever got past that part in the Legend of Zelda, right? I want to say that is Ocarina of Time. But I loved Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Especially the graphics. I think it still holds up really well today. And I was a kid, so again, I never beat it. But man, do I remember grabbing those pigs and trying to throw them off the cliff or into the water. I definitely did not beat a lot of the games that I played on the GameCube, and that still holds true to this day, by the way. I'm horrible at completing games. But there was a game that I did beat, Pokemon Colosseum. 3D Pokemon with a snag-em machine. I mean, come on, count me in. The main character was so cool too, Seth. And I'll never forget when I finally got my Typhlosion. And by the way, he's never gonna beat those allegations. But I remember getting my Typhlosion to level 100 at the Battle Colosseum, and I loved it, man. The plot twist too, as a kid, I never saw that coming. Alert, by the way, you mean the mayor was the bad guy the entire time? I never saw that coming. I thought that was pretty crazy. And I was playing the game on my Steam Deck the other day, and I was like, man, these battles are actually tough, and the game does not hold your hand at all. Like, I'm telling you, like these games back then were different. Like, if you forgot what the character said in the game, or you tapped too fast, too fast, and you skipped, you're low-key stuck trying to figure out. Thank God we have the internet nowadays, I can just Google it up. But I have no idea how I beat this game as a kid, but I know I definitely beat this game and I got past there, at least beating the mayor. come to find out, you guys are gonna come on this comment section and you'll be like, yo, that's not actually the end of the game, Dex. That would be absolutely insane. Anyway, another game I spent countless of hours on was Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Kingdom, which was like a RTS RPG spin-off of the popular card game, obviously, that saw these Yu-Gi-Oh characters. You know, you could do Kaiba, you could do Yugi, and then I think even later on you could unlock the Joey playthrough, but you kind of play as those characters and you're stuck in a gaming world. Really underrated game, by the way. Y'all know Pikmin. I don't need to explain Pikmin, right? Strategy puzzle game with those tiny, cute, and kind of creepy creatures that would get eaten if you didn't get them to your ship by nighttime. I really enjoyed this game with Olimar, just playing this game and playing Pikmin 2 even with my cousin and playing the 2-player mode with that, or the battle mode with that. I remember just so many fond memories with that. Speaking of fond memories, let's talk about Animal Crossing, right? We all know what happened in 2020 when Animal Crossing came out on the Switch, right? But this was the OG one for me. My goodness, a life simulator where players lived in a village of animals. You do absolutely nothing, right? Like you pay off Tom Nook, you know, your house, you build up your house, you try not to upset Mr. Rossetti, you collect all the bugs and all the fishes. I mean, just a fun game to spend so much time on and try to get the furniture pieces from as well. NBA Street 2 as well as NBA Street 3 were probably one of my favorite arcade style basketball games of all time. The over-the-top stylized street basketball with simple rules, unlocking cool characters like Bones, you know what I mean? I think in one of them they had Shaq as well. Just really cool. Stretch, come on, those guys are iconic, right? So you can't forget too the lines that they would say. Special delivery. They had all these cool names for these basketball moves, and I love playing basketball to this day. So NBA Street 2 and 3 were a lot of fun. You know, as an adult now, I love going back and playing games that I missed out on or couldn't afford when I was younger, and one of them was definitely the Fire Emblem series. Now, I love tactical RPGs, and in this channel, you're going to definitely see a lot of long plays of RPG games. And these ones, especially on the GameCube, have one of my favorite characters of the series in there, Ike. And I just love the Fire Emblem games, and being able to replay these and emulate these have been so much fun. Now, there's so many more games that I'm sure I have to kind of like remember, you know, get the memory unlocked for, or games that I just absolutely missed. And I would love to hear what games I missed out on so I can play them as well. And really, as we wrap up our journey through the GameCube, it's clear to me that while it may not have been topping the charts, the sale charts, it really did impact me as a gamer, and I'm sure it impacted many in the world. I think it's undeniable, really. Looking back at the GameCube, what can it teach us? Success isn't just by numbers, but by the memories we create with the systems we play. And this little cube, with its bold design and awesome gaming library, really was the start to the world of gaming for me. And for that, it has a very special place in my heart, as well as in a special place in many gamers' hearts worldwide, I'm sure. So, thank you for joining me on this nostalgic ride. Did you ever own a GameCube, or have you discovered its classics through emulation? What are some of your favorite memories or games with this iconic console? I would love to hear your stories down below. Hey, you just watched through my first ever YouTube video on this channel. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Nintendo's unsung heroes, the GameCube, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss a video. Until next time, this is Retro Dex signing out.